Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. We had a little bit of a tech glitch there, so hopefully all is well and sorted for the hour. Just now, I need to clear something here and get us in a gear. Right, good. So I'm seeing my folks, I'm seeing my people. Hi, good night, everybody. Hi, Kyron. Hi, Cyril. Hi, Ashaki. Hi, Nashon. Hi, Daniel. So it's what? Today is what? Thursday. So normally I don't have a live on a Thursday. Sometimes I don't even have a live for emancipation. But I wanted to have a live this evening for a couple of reasons. One, I plan to take a little bit of a break, like about 10 to 12 days. I should check the calendar to see what 10 to 12 days means. So let me do that right now. Ideally, I should have done it before the live started. Hi, Ian. I see you following the live there. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So 10 days actually it falls on a Sunday, the 10th of August. So, let's make a date. We will reconnect here on the evening of Sunday, the 10th of August, or sometime on Sunday, the 10th of August. So I'm taking a little bit of a break. Plus, I want to give Tech Guy a little bit of a break as well, because we both need to step back, recenter ourselves, because we've been going hard. We've been going hard since April 29th, making sure that the government understands that there are a significant group of people who are willing to resist them. And while it might look like it's just me that is doing the resisting and me alone that is doing the speaking out, I don't want you all for one instant to think that that's the case, because people have been helping me get information. I do just make it up. There is nothing that I have put out from April the 29th to now that has been made up, that has been pulled out of thin air, nothing like that. So while it may not be apparent who are all of the people helping me, I want everybody that has provided me with information, even if it is a little piece of information. Once you have helped me to be able to shed light and bring truth to everybody that's following my social media channels, I thank you. And I think we owe ourselves a little bit of rest now, because we have been going hard. We have been going so hard that it is us the government is responding to on a daily basis, when it is putting out its propaganda, when people are answering questions to the media, when people are putting out press release statements. It is because of the things that we have done. So don't underestimate what we have been able to manage in 3 months. So next week, the 6th of August, is going to make it 90 days that the UNC has been in office. And I think that it's very fair to say, even though we ain't yet hit 90 days, that the UNC has been a huge disappointment. A huge disappointment. Now, I'm clear that a PNM support base, or rather, anybody who didn't support the UNC would have been disappointed either which way. But I am also clear that even supporters of the United National Congress are themselves quite disappointed. Not all. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make as if this is a situation where it's all UNC supporters that are disappointed. But there are supporters who have reached out to me to let me know just how disappointed they are in what is passing for governance. Sorry. All right. So I want to start with a little bit of a throwback. Hi, Helen. Hi, Joyda. Hi, Amy and Hazel. Just shouting out a couple folks on the chat thread. I want to start with a little bit of a throwback video, and I will explain why after we have looked at the throwback video.
Speaker, this motion is frivolous and vexatious. This motion is childish. This motion has no basis. This motion has no purpose. This motion is empty. It is vacuous. It is tenuous. It is absurd. And Mr. Speaker, I am not staying in this parliament to continue this foolish debate. I am leaving now. We're getting out of here. You could say what you want. Whatever you have to say. Whatever you have to say. Say it outside. If, Mr. Speaker, if they name man, if you name man, come outside. Don't stay inside. Bunch of cowards. I'm gone from here.
It's a lynching. It's an attempt to lynch.
So I shared the video because yesterday was Imbert's birthday. So he would have turned 68 yesterday. I didn't do a post. I didn't put up a post because, of course, I am well aware that the UNC trolls live for everything that I post. So I didn't want to put up a post to celebrate his 68 years and then people come and put a set of nasty comments on it. But I wanted to let the audience here know. Yesterday was his birthday, and one of the things he's most famous for is the come outside speech. And of course, the other thing that he is famous for is having successfully run a very difficult economy for 9.5 years. So I thought we could, give him a little happy birthday here, a little tribute here. So just letting you all know. It was his birthday yesterday. Right, so moving on. Oh, before we move on, what do you think about all the boy tech guy? Artwork. When tech guy sent this to me, the first thing I said to him was, boy, you're going to make the police come and lock him up, right? Because somehow I feel all your boy, the Punisher, ain't going to be thrilled about his new sexy bondage outfit. So let's get into it. First set of people I want to talk about. Well then, boy, I didn't put up the picture. Wow, just now. I thought, right, it's coming in now. So these are the emancipateds. And I'm talking about them as the emancipateds because this government doesn't seem to understand irony. Or maybe they understand irony very well. Maybe it is part and parcel of their modus now to do everything in their power to insult and bring pain to a black population. This government, let me embiggen, is a word that tech guy like to use, right? Let me embiggen this picture. This government, and I'm sure y'all are hearing me very well from behind the picture. This government is made up of persons who have happily, calmly, robustly made nasty comments about people of African descent in this country. At the center of the picture is Kamla Prasad Bisesa, a woman who has taken great pains to refer to people of African descent as those with slave master names. She has, on occasion, referred to the offspring of African descended people here as Duncy Head PNM. She has run campaigns wherein she has promoted the idea of black people being only poor, starving, needing handouts. And the handouts and assistance always seems to be coming from UNC, from the United National Congress. So that has been a perpetual narrative with the UNC, and it's been a narrative of the UNC since 2010. It wasn't as flagrant in her 2010 campaign, but it became far more flagrant when she introduced things like Color Me Orange, Life Sport, what was that thing with Shaquille O'Neal? I forget what it is, the basketball competition thing. So all of those things were programs and policies that would have been introduced by the United National Congress from the perspective of the African descended community here consistently needing handouts, consistently begging, consistently needing to be given things, as if the African descended population here is incapable of working and earning its keep. And one of the narratives has consistently been that the jobs that black people do, the jobs that African descended people here do, are not worthy jobs, are not necessary jobs, are not jobs that are worthwhile to be considered as jobs. And this Hoops for Life, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Hoops for Life, Color Me Orange, Life Sport, those are 3 examples of policies that she would have created from 2010 to now, steeped in racism, steeped in stereotypes, steeped in notions of anti-blackness. So this bunch here that I refer to as the emancipated, they are the ones that think it's okay to talk out of one side of your mouth about African descended people in a particular way, and then come out of the next side of their mouth and pretend, we love you all. We are here to do things for you. Look, we're dressing up in African ethnic wear. See? That means that we love you, that we support you, that all of we is one. I am one of those persons who believes people putting on the ethnic wear of other people without having an understanding of their culture, that's papi show, that's costuming, that's cosplay. And I don't want anybody cosplaying my identity. My identity is not a mask. It is not a costume to put on and play and parade in for you to feel that somehow you now are the same as me, that we could be friends, that we could be allies. So you see the shitongs in this picture? Not me and them. Me and none of them can't saddle horse, because I understand only too well that it is possible to put on somebody cultural identity and play around in it and thereafter have no respect for them. And for me, that is one of the key issues that I have with the UNC government. It is not treating people of African descent as equal citizens, worthy of dignity and humane treatment. So, from April 29th to now, there has been a narrative of pain, a narrative of vengeance, a narrative of retribution. But hear why the narrative not making sense. There is no time that I can think of, but certainly if I am going back to 2015 and 2020, there is nothing on record when Dr. Rowley became Prime Minister that indicates that within his first 3 months in office, 20,000 people were facing the breadline. So when these emancipated folks and their supporters come to you with this stupid narrative of PNM do it too, or every single time there is a change in government, all CEPEP and all URP workers just get fired and change over. That is not true. Because back in 2015, when the PNM took office and took over from the UNC or the People's Partnership, whatever it is you want to call the government back then, they allowed everybody who were in contractual positions to work out the duration of their contract. If you go back into Hansard and Parliament records, you will see, quite in 2017, Barry Padarak is talking about CEPEP workers having their tenure ended and not being renewed. And that's because when the PNM came in 2015 under Dr. Rowley, whoever was working worked until the end of their contract. So if when the government changed then in 2015, you had 6 months again remaining on your contract, you worked out your 6 months. If you had a year remaining on your contract, you worked out your year. If you had 2 more years on your contract, you worked out your 2 more years. There was no instant under Dr. Rowley's tenure where anybody could say that within the first 3 months, upwards of 20,000 people were facing the breadline. Upwards of 20,000 people. So I'm saying upwards because it's more than 20,000. I don't know the exact figure, but I know for certain it's more than 20,000. You have more than 20,000 people having lost their jobs within the first 3 months of a government taking office. And there are people who are quiet about it. Some quiet because they don't have a problem with it, and some quiet because of shame. They don't know how to face people because it is glaringly obvious why people have lost their jobs. There is this whole perception of if you are black, you are PNM, and therefore you are not one of us and you deserve to lose your job. That is racist. And people afraid to say that. Nobody want to use them words at all. But if you have decided you have gotten into government, you have met people doing a job, and you have decided this person is going to be fired because they appear to be PNM, and you are using the term PNM interchangeably with black or African descended people, you're being racist. Period. Is there nothing else to explain? I don't have to come with no big theory. Me not to come with science. Me not to come with charts and tables. The government's approach on employment in CEPEP, URP, forestry, all of the areas, local government, is racist. And people can't say nothing because it is now so flagrant. So the most they could do is come and say, well, the PNM do it too. No. Fake news. Lies. The PNM allowed everybody to work out their contracts. And I have no recollection under Manning's tenure, when Manning became Prime Minister 2002, somewhere thereabouts. I have no recollection of mass firings. I have no recollection of 10,000, 20,000 people suddenly facing the breadline. So, no, if they come and they say to you, this is normal, it's not normal. Yes, with a changeover, you will have the new political party deciding it's going to hire and take on its people and its supporters. It has not been my recollection or experience that the PNM gets into power and fires everybody who is there. That is not my recollection. That is not what I am aware of. I am aware of people's contracts ending and people who supporting, affiliated with, aligned with, once they apply, they get hired. It is not that I didn't expect that there would be a changeover in terms of who holding which positions and what. What I did not expect was that people were going to be fired in huge numbers. So suddenly, within 3 months, you have more than 20,000 people facing the breadline, have bills to pay, children to feed, households to look after, and they can't. And there is no legal recourse for them in some instances. Their unions silent because PSE, or everybody who has PSA as their union, they have no recourse to get because the union is silent. The union has nothing to say. People are talking about not getting their allowances or salaries late. Union silent, not a word to say. This is the first time in my recollection that so much industrial relations issues are hitting the fan and not a union has a word to say. Not a union. Nobody coming out to say nothing. As a matter of fact, I think it's only one union that has spoken up in the last couple of weeks that I am aware of at any rate. But the majority of them, silent. Silence loud too. So this emancipated bunch, they have taken it upon themselves to papi show everybody identity and to protect themselves. And it is part of a very complex and nasty cycle of subjugation. And that's why this episode, before I go on a little break, is to look at how some people will decide they are going to punish and subjugate other people. But at the end, I'm going to talk about how we deal with it and cope with it. Because I don't just want to talk about the problem, I want to talk about it from the perspective of a solution. Okay? Good. So let me move forward. Hey, 800 and something people on the live. Yes, I wasn't expecting a turnout this evening because I know it's the evening before our holiday. People have things to do. So one of the things this government has been very good at is promoting stereotypes around African people, right? Or African descended people. So I wanted to look at those stereotypes a little bit. One stereotype is lazy, where, African people are lazy. They have poor work ethic. They just show up for work, days and days and days. You can't see them in work. And I thought to myself, how do we go about dealing with that particular stereotype? When you have people who don't show up for work, only showing up one afternoon for the week, and after they show up one afternoon for the week, expecting to get a full salary, all the benefits, all the remuneration package, all the perks and benefits at the end of the month. For me, I just be thinking to myself, how somebody who only showing up to work one afternoon for the week, right? So basically, they have a 6.5 day weekend. You showing up one afternoon for the week and finding it necessary to talk about CEPEP and URP people as being grass cutters. How do you go about making as if other people are lazy, other people have a bad work ethic, other people not worthy of jobs and employment, and you don't come to work? Like, how? Thursday evening alone, Thursday afternoon alone. So Friday to Thursday midday weekend, Thursday afternoon alone. But yeah, things to say about people. Another important stereotype about African people is that we can't manage money. We can't budget properly. We just can't handle we affairs when it comes to revenue and expenditure. So I just wonder how we end up with Dave. Because here you have a man who May month would have been a dry month for collecting money. June month, you would have collect between $8 and $10 billion. We're now in July, and you can't pay salaries on time. So, Dave, you can't manage money. You can't handle money. Why are you there, Dave? Why are you in the Ministry of Finance? What are your skill sets? Because if something as basic as collecting a lump sum of revenue in 1 month and then holding and managing that revenue for a period of months, we ain't saying for the whole year, but 2-3 months now, you put money away for a rainy day, you put money away for a dry month in terms of revenue, you collect $8 to $10 billion. You know, public servant salaries is $2 billion. So you say, let me put $4 billion aside. So June, July handled. Or let me put $6 billion aside. So June, July, August handled. I could breathe easy for them 3 months because I had the money inside. You're coming to tell me that my mother, with she little pittance and she little susu, could handle she money better than Dave? You're coming to tell me them women and them who running the little sauce cart on the side of the road, the little corn soup cart when the carnival come or when the weekend come in the food court in the savannah, them handling and managing money better than Dave? Because Dave would have collected between $8 and $10 billion in June and July. Toot moon complaining, pension late, salary late, People get fired and ain't get paid. People got fired this month, sent home without pay. And then Khadija has the audacity to put out a statement blaming public servants. The same public servants in all their ministries for the last 9.5 years. Them same public servants during oil shock in 2016, oil shock again in 2020 or 2021, a COVID pandemic, economic austerity. In all them years, all that bangarang, they managed to put a house in order, manage the money, and pay people the salaries on time, pay people the pension on time for 9.5 years. Suddenly, them public servants and them don't know their work. I supposed to believe that? Well, you come now, man. Somebody on the thread playing the fool? Who on the thread playing the fool? Let me know so I can ban them. Give me a second. Tell me what's the person's name, and I will deal with them because I'm not actually seeing the person on the comment thread here. But once you tell me what the person's name is. Oh, Kevin. Oh. Let's see. Why am I not getting the option to ban Kevin? Oh, I see why. I see the problem. Y'all ignore Kevin. Kevin want attention. Just ignore him. Okay. All right. Right. Another one of the stereotypes is that either black people are criminals or are known to associate themselves with criminals. I don't have nothing to say. I think when you think about how this government uses stereotypes and abuses stereotypes and lives up or down, depending on how you think about it, to stereotypes, they need maybe to not be talking about stereotypes so much. But that's just me. So there's something that came to my attention that I want to talk about. There's been we know that fake news is a thing now, right? Globally. But there's something that happened recently. I saw that the People's National Movement made comments about it, but I wanted to focus on it a little bit. The UNC has started a YouTube channel that does fake news. So the YouTube channel has artificial intelligence and they have a black AI avatar reading the news, and it's fake news. So it pulls things from sometimes the parliament or elsewhere, and they've been using black newscasters to read the news, but it's not actual people, it's artificial intelligence, right? So fake images of black people reading the news, so that of course it can promote a particular perspective of the news. And so my understanding is the person who has created the channel is actually working out of the office of the Prime Minister, which reminds me of back in 2010 when we would have had bloggers, where the UNC would have paid people to blog, to push certain narratives on social media, to promote the UNC in a positive light, to run to different comment threads, to distract people, to say positive things, to twist things in such a way so that they could reshape public opinion of the UNC. Now, the shift is to use artificial intelligence, social media, and other kinds of media to be able to shift the narrative. I just want you all to be mindful of what is going on. So this is happening on YouTube, right? So this here is a YouTube channel. And what I've noticed is the channel has, like, if it puts up something tonight, by Saturday, it has like 30,000, 40,000 views. There's a possibility that it's also using bots to drive up the views on the channel. So that way it comes across as if the content is popular content. Just be mindful. That's all. Just be mindful. Because the content is fake. The content is disingenuous, it's dishonest content. So that's that particular issue. There is one other thing that I've noticed. There is a WhatsApp group that sends out the newspapers, the Guardian, the Express, the Newsday, and a whole bunch of regional newspapers. The WhatsApp group is actually called Daily Newspapers. And so every morning, if you're part of the WhatsApp group, you will get PDFs of all of the newspapers that they have access to. Last weekend, it was last week? Yeah, last weekend. The Sunday Express that was circulated had fake pages. So page 1, the cover page of the Express was a doctored page promoting all of this nonsense about the PNM being a well-oiled criminal enterprise. And it had the wrong date, etc. When you went to the actual real page, because they used a story, they used an Express from 2022, the actual page would have had this story: Judge DPP on prison hit list on Sunday. The old newspaper that they used, the real front page, would have been one that said a well-oiled criminal enterprise, referring to the TTPS and FULs. And the fake page was doctored to say the PNM is a well-oiled criminal enterprise. What is interesting is that this is a WhatsApp group that sends out the newspapers to thousands of people on a daily basis. And when the newspapers are sent out to whoever is following that page, persons then send the newspapers out to their channels. So what you have is a situation where the newspapers just going all over the place. I messaged the admin from that WhatsApp group and I said, you're spreading fake news. You're spreading something that is racist. You're spreading propaganda. And I'll show you the racist post just now. And the person that responded, who is the admin of the group, just said, ha 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 ha, well, this is how I get in the papers. Not, I'm sorry, I'll do better. I'll ensure that this doesn't happen again. Ha 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 ha. That's how I get in the papers. Now, during the elections, what I noticed was the same digital papers also had the whole when UNC wins and yellow is the code across the pages. So like the first 5 to 7 pages of the Express, because it's not done on the Guardian. Usually when you're seeing a manipulated, doctored document, it is usually the Express that they manipulate. And I think it's because they are scanning the Express themselves and then circulating it. Whereas with the Guardian, I think they're getting a PDF version of the Guardian and they're just sharing that as is. So they're not doctoring the Guardian, they doctor in the Express. And they put all kinds of UNC slogans onto the doctored version of the Express. And then they spread it around. Just be mindful. Just be careful. Just pay attention. That's all. I just want people to be mindful, to be careful, to pay attention. So this is the other thing that they did. They had this ad, and check out what the ad says. So this was just on page 3 of that fake or doctored newspaper. So you have this profile, Chanel Olive, and she says, just got robbed in town on Charlotte Street. Black guy bust my chain off my neck, digging up my neck and running off. So just know I would soon be getting my legal firearm. And is only headshot, nothing else. Such a hungry N-word. Can't go and get a work, only out here to distress people. This ad was clearly pushing for and promoting standing ground legislation. Because when you see how and where it was positioned in the papers, it was clear that it was a promotion of standing ground. Now, I think that is a fake post that was made, or it was created basically to put into this doctored version of the paper. And that's not how Stand Your Ground even works, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. All of this to say, be careful. There is a whole propaganda push right now, because the UNC understands that it can't really get a population to follow it based on its performance as a government. So it is going to be doing as much manipulation as it can possibly do. Be careful, be mindful, pay attention. So I want to jump from the fake news to something else, and it's kind of tied back into what we're discussing just now about stereotypes. So give me a second here, let me find the clip.
We have a lot of things to be done. There are many ministries. You have industries, is something we can partner. You talked about the CEPEP. Maybe tonight is not the time for that full disclosure, but I can say I am very much against the whole structuring of the CEPEP, the URP, and the reforestation. Many of you, in my constituency and elsewhere, you were just hoping to replace. So when we vote on the PNL, you want 5 gang and 10 gang, and look at what you want, gangs. You really want gangs? I mean, seriously? Do we want gangs? Read the name they gave to this thing, gangs. So it is something the cabinet, we've already had a couple of meetings to look at that whole program. And tonight when you talk about the trade school, the apprenticeship thing struck my brain a few days ago. Let's look at something like that. Let's look at something where people can come, apprentice, or go to the MIC, the YTEP you mentioned, all those programs for skills training. We give them a stipend and let them learn something, so they can transition out. How long you want to be cutting grass for? You know, that's what those programs said. We have become a nation of grass cutters under the PNM. So the CEPEP cutting grass, no, this is not a joke. The CEPEP cutting grass, the URP cutting grass, reforestation, cutting grass where you're supposed to be planting trees. They didn't plant any. The regional corporations cutting grass, HGC is cutting grass, NGC is cutting grass. So all the people in our country, grass cutters, we cannot. So look, I'm really thinking, and I'm telling you, some of you are our old supporters, they vex with me and they vex with us because they feel we should just replace the CEPEP and the URD. That will take us nowhere. They have become criminalized. If you put yourselves there, you say, okay, you want one gang and you want two or how many, and you have the gang. All it takes is for the criminal to come to you and say, I know where you're living, I know your wife, I know your son. You see the 10 names you have on the gang? You write down these 5, and you could take the next 5. So you have 5 ghosts. Because of the fear, the criminals are creating this fear. I will explain it, but maybe it's the first time I'm giving my full, deeper thinking on it. I know people are worried about it, but that is not the way for us to take our young people to send you out there. They will threaten the 4 men on each of the programs. 5 for you and 5 for me, boss. Take it or leave it. What happens? So you have 5 ghosts and the criminal man collecting the money. That's what is happening. That's what's happening. So it's not that we are vicious. It is not that we are racist. This is for everybody. Everyone, whichever you vote for, which constituency, I cannot in good conscience continue that program. We have to restructure it. We have to
Couple things. One, the United National Congress spent 9.5 years telling people who are PNM supporters that we will eat grass and suffer on the People's National Movement. 9.5 years. I saw memes, I saw posts, I saw comments, left, right, and center, saying to people of African descent, all the PNM people going to eat grass under the PNM. I think for many people of African descent, it is worse under the United National Congress. I don't remember eating grass under the PNM. I don't remember seeing other people eating grass under the PNM. But I think now there are a number of people who are fearful that they may end up eating grass under the UNC because of their labor and hiring and firing policies. Kamala made the point there that URP and CEPEP is only about grass cutting. She says URP, CEPEP, and forestry, they're all grass cutters. That the PNM has made the country a country of grass cutters. That the PNM has made those workers grass cutters. So a couple of things. One, what's wrong with cutting grass? What is wrong with cutting grass? That's an important question to ask. Not just Kamala, but to ask yourself. If, and I'm not saying that all European CEPEP and forestry people do is cut grass. I'm going to get to that just now. If, for the sake of argument, all those 3 sets of workers did was cut grass, what's wrong with that? Because I know people who run in landscape business or landscaping business, and they earning a good living, a good wage. I know people who create teams called Verge Crews, and all through forested areas and forested roads in this country, they clearing the verge on a daily basis. That's their job. They reach with their whacker and whatever else, and they clearing verge to make sure that paths are wide enough and clear enough for vehicles to pass. So if all those 3 groups of workers did was cut grass, if that's all they did, What is wrong with that? Landscaping is a whole way of earning a living. There are people who have full-time jobs and doing a weekend hustle as a landscaper. I see them in the communities around me. They hustling, they're working wherever they're working during the week, and on weekends they are doing people's lawns and yards and wherever else. What is wrong with cutting grass? What is dehumanizing? What's the point of insulting people as grass cutters? So I reached out to a friend who worked with CEPEP and URP, and I said, well, what else do workers in CEPEP and URP do that is not grass cutting? Not that I have an issue with them just cutting grass, because right now there are parts of Diego Martin that need the grass cut, like really bad. Khadijah, release some funds to Marlborough Corp now. Yeah, release some money now, because I know media review, you went, you asked for money, by now the money should be released there. Sort out Marlborough Corp now. We need grass cut in Diego Martin too. So, URP. There are a range of things that URP does, or the people who work in URP are known for. So box drains, pavements. They've gotten to the point now where they've begun to source the materials for themselves and do the building of the box drains and pavements. There's a women's program where the women who are working in URP do sanitation in schools. They do highway maintenance, and they do a lot of cleaning of roads. So, box drains, school sanitation, pavements, highways and roadways, keeping highways and roadways clean. Those are some of the things that URP workers do. So when we want to talk about what these people are doing, there is a lot of sanitation and maintenance work that has been done by these programs, whether you deem it important or not. Sanitation and maintenance important. Further to that, there are a lot of people that slip through the cracks in our education system, or are differently abled, different cognitive skills, and so academic streams not for them. They probably can't even manage a technical vocational skill. But you have skills like sanitation and maintenance that they can do, that they can earn a living from. So why we want to shut up these people? Why we want to rag them up? Why we want to make them feel like they're not making a valid contribution to this space? Why are we talking about those jobs as if those jobs are so menial that they have no value, when we damn well know that those jobs have critical value? This is a little bit on CEPEP. So CEPEP workers, you know how long I do this, boy? Put myself in a position on the camera. CEPEP workers function as first responders in disasters. So when disasters take place, CEPEP workers are the ones that come out right afterwards to assist with the cleanup. Floods, all of the events that take place all over the country, CEPEP workers are the ones that show up right afterwards to do the cleanup. And there have been a range of things that they have ensured CEPEP workers do. So alter classes to make sure that their literacy levels are up. They've done COSTAT training in agriculture. They've done finance training. So besides grass cutting, there is a whole lot of other things that go on. At some point in time, I'm going to be having a conversation with a contractor for you all to understand that the comments that Kamla made there about ghost gangs is not as easy to create ghost gangs as she is saying, except, of course, if you are involved with criminal elements. And I mean, Kamla's government wouldn't be in bed with criminals, would they? I mean, the UNC is above that, right? The UNC wouldn't be involved, hog up with criminals, right? Okay, I hope not. I wouldn't want to think so. But there is a message that I want to share with you all, or rather a series of questions I want to share with you all. It came to my attention, it was drawn to my attention, and is one of those things where I would have done a post to say I was informed or I heard. So this morning, first thing this morning, 8 o'clock, I felt by 8 o'clock, she should have been awake. I sent these questions to the Prime Minister because I don't want anybody to say that I'm not doing my due diligence. So here goes. Good morning, Mrs. Prasad Bisessa. This is Rhoda Barrett. I've recently been told that there have been meetings at your private residence. It should have been residence. Sorry about that. To discuss the distribution of CEPEP contracts. So I was surprised to see that video where CEPEP was being disparaged when I was told early on in the week that there have been meetings. So I asked the Prime Minister whether distribution being done on a selective basis avoids tendering. So I don't know for absolute certainty that the things that were told to me happen. So I reached out to the Prime Minister to find out, did the meeting take place? Did the meeting follow due process? Remember, the Prime Minister says that she will work from wherever she wants to work. So I can no longer, none of us can any longer assume that meetings about tendering will only take place at the office of the Prime Minister. So I was told by persons who are closely affiliated with the sitting government that there have been meetings at the Prime Minister's private residence. That at those meetings, there would have been discussions about the distribution of CEPEP contracts. So I messaged the Prime Minister to find out, is this happening? Were there meetings? Were there discussions? Are the meetings transparent and accountable? Are the meetings following due process? Are procurement regulations being followed? Because here's the thing. If those meetings are not transparent, if those meetings are not following due process, if those meetings aren't involving procurement, proper procurement, what could be happening is a situation of corruption. And I would be stunned, shocked, if our sitting Prime Minister is in one breath talking about how CEPEP needs to be done away with, and then at her home is having conversations with persons about how to distribute CEPEP contracts. I don't want to think that that could possibly be the case. So I'm hoping that the goodly Prime Minister will respond to my questions. It's been, It's almost 8 o'clock. So it's been almost 12 hours since I sent the messages. Nobody has acknowledged. Nobody has responded. So I would like if the Prime Minister would please respond to my queries about CEPEP. Because the understanding that I have is that there have been discussions, and in the course of the discussions, there were distribution. So like names were called. This one will get, that one will get, the other will get, right? I was given about 3 or 4 names. And I would hate to think that that is taking place. So I am hopeful that the Prime Minister is going to come out and clarify whether or not CEPEP contracts are being discussed in meetings at her home, whether or not the distribution of contracts are transparent, following proper tendering and proper procurement processes. So please, Madam Prime Minister, especially in the light of the discussions you would have had about CEPEP, URP, and forestry being just grass cutters, I would hope that since you want to revamp the program, that you would be treating with the program's revamp before any contracts are issued to anybody. Yeah? Okay, good. So let's see how it goes, right? I'm not saying that anything has happened yet, but let's see how it goes. I want to hope that there will be a response, certainly at least on the issue of CEPEP. So now let me shift to talk about Sanderground a little bit. And, one more video clip.
Common law. So if they thief your property and they got in a way, you might want to ask if they could shoot them while they were in a way with a gun. Now all of this is common sense. If he had a gun during the invasion and he's leaving with the gun, it's always possible he can change his mind and say, boy, you know what? I feel that man can identify me. Let me turn around and finish him off. So the fact that he's running away, they always say if you run away, you can't shoot. No. Circumstances, he's running away, armed with a gun, you can shoot him in the back. And explain yourself after. That's the reality. If he's running away without a gun, that's a different thing. Right? If he's down on the ground and you hit him too and he ain't moving, you can't finish it. The common sense thing is, you save it because the partner might come back to help him. Right? So it's all about justification. The second thing I do not like about the bill is the part where they say you have to establish that you acted in self-defense. I don't like that.
Wayne Sturge is, based on that clip, lying to the audience at that consultation. If UNC supporters took the time to look at the 16 pages of the Home Invasion, Self-Defense and Defense of Property Bill 2025, they would understand that nothing that Sturge said in that clip is actually covered in the bill. So this is the bill here. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you. So the bill contains 10 clauses. Clause 1, title of the bill. Clause 2 will let you know what effect it would have on sections of the Constitution. Clause 3, clause 3, 4, 5. Right. Where it becomes important is clause 6. Clause 6 establishes that the offense of home invasion should be now it should have its own law, right? So it should be a law for itself. And it indicates, it elaborates what is home invasion, what constitutes home invasion. Clause 7 tells you about people having no duty to retreat from an invader. There is no part in clause 7 or even clause 8 that says if someone has retreated from you, that you are within your right to shoot the person while they are retreating. Sturge is giving very shaky advice. There are things coming out of their mouths at these consultations that has me concerned for their base. Not for the government, for their base, for people who think that stand your ground is stand your ground anywhere. Based on the legislation, you can only defend yourself in your home. Based on the legislation, you have to show reasonable cause. So you can't just decide, you see somebody in the yard, you shoot them. That's not how the law works. You have to be able to establish that the person threatened you, that you were fearful for your life, and your response has to be commensurate. It's there in the legislation. But it appears as if at these consultations, the people in the audience not challenging anything that the people at the podium saying. So please don't get tired. The legislation doesn't say anything that Sturge said in that video. When I heard the clip, I was stunned. I reached out to 2 lawyer friends of mine. I said, but the draft legislation I saw doesn't say this. And they said, exactly. What is that? So I am waiting on the Law Association to say something, not about Sturge, about the law, the draft law, because it's not law yet. It hasn't been debated. It hasn't, it ain't go through the various stages it need to go through. For now, it is just consultation. And one of the things I want you all to be clear on is this. Stand your ground doesn't say anything about having the right to shoot people. It doesn't. It talks about defending yourself. That's what it talks about. Defending yourself. And it talks about defending yourself within the confines of your property. So it's not this while wherever you feel like standing your ground, you can stand your ground. And people aren't clear on that. And I'm saying that in light of this statement, right? This fake stand your ground ad that was in that doctored newspaper. Because this young lady who thinks that if somebody grabs her on Charlotte Street, and that's even if this story is a true story, that she could just shoot them in the head. The law does not cover those things. So if somebody grabs your chain, runs away from you, and you decide you are going to be shooting somebody who's running away from you, you need to remember that your use of force must be commensurate. If you're going to be shooting somebody, it has to be that you are fearful for your life, not angry that you have been robbed. And don't get me wrong, I understand that you could be angry about being robbed, but the way self-defense works, you have to be able to establish that your life was in peril. So if somebody is running away from you, how are you establishing that your life was in peril if somebody is running away from you? All right, so let me try and wrap up some things here. So, bondage. isn't something that happens with somebody's consent. Right? Let me put it that way. It doesn't happen with people's consent. Bondage is an act of aggression, and I'm talking about bondage outside of a sexual arrangement, right? In case anybody decide to come for me. I'm not talking about bondage within a sexual paradigm. I'm talking about bondage from the perspective of humans interacting with each other in terms of power. Bondage will happen with people consent. If you turn around and you decide, I am going to oppress you, I'm going to enslave you, I am going to tie you up and do whatever it is I want to do to you, that isn't with people's consent. Kamla Prasad Bisesa became prime minister in this country, and I've said to you all often, the UNC didn't win, the PNM lost. The UNC did not come into power with huge amounts of votes in its favor. As a matter of fact, the voter base on the 28th of April was pretty low. It was like 54% of the country coming out to vote, which is low, which is a low number, low figure. Usually in the years where there have been landslide victories, because Kamla would have gotten a landslide victory, but it was not a landslide victory with large numbers. It was a landslide victory because PNM voters didn't show up. About 100,000 PNM voters didn't show up. So because 100,000 voters didn't show up, it meant that the battle became between the voters that did show up, and her voters were consistent in terms of numbers. And so she won the election and got a majority in the parliament, right? 20-something seats. I've forgotten how many seats. I think it's 28 seats? Good. So, comes into office, but doesn't come into office riding a wave of popularity. So it's not a situation where 60-something percent, 70% of the population would have voted for her. And because she's well aware that only 52% of the population came out and voted. And of that 52%, her votes represent 330,000 and the PNM's votes represent 240,000 or somewhere thereabouts. So she is clear that her hold on power is tenuous at best. And because her hold on power is tenuous, is a shaky hold on power, her approach has been to be iron-fisted, heavy-handed, and oppressive. Her approach has also been to continue to persist with this whole narrative of subtle, I don't even find it so subtle anymore, but a lot of divisive, racist, tribal politics, while at the same time pretending she's not that, and pretending that her policies and approaches have not been discriminatory policies and approaches, when it is clear that it is. So she continues to gaslight, she continues to oppress, she continues to use people's physical features as a way to distinguish against them. So if I work in a space and everybody who right-handed gets to work and everybody who's left-handed gets fired, people can't hide their right-handedness and their left-handedness. So obviously, the left-handed people will get make out and they'll be fired. We have a situation where people are moving around this country afraid to be black because of how the government and its supporters are behaving. This is a multicultural society, and in a multicultural society, society where 34%, roughly 34 and change, right? Maybe about 34.6%. So let's round it out to 35%. 35% of the population is of African descent, visibly of African descent. And you will have people of mixed race who will also present with African features. So, and that mixed race population is about 30% or maybe 20-something%. So let's say part of that 20-something% presents as being of African descent as well. You have maybe 40-something% of the country worried about how they will be treated, how they will be perceived, whether or not they will continue to have jobs, whether or not they're going to be harassed at their jobs. How is that fair? It's not fair. It is not fair at all. But that fear of how unfair it is something that the UNC is feeding off of right now. So there's another thing that I want you all to take a look at. It's a message that was sent in to me. This is somebody who works in, I forget the ministry now, I have to double check. But the lady says, imagine being told your contract would be renewed. You continue to give your best, stay committed, plan your life around that promise, only to be told on the very last day, don't show up to work Monday. Don't worry, it's only you. Sorry, don't worry, it's not only you, it's 11 of all here. No warning, no formal notice, no respect. This isn't just about me. It's about the blatant disregard for people's time, dignity, and livelihood. Whether it's 1 or 11, we are not disposable. We are professionals, parents, providers, and people with responsibilities. We deserve honesty. We deserve transparency. We deserve better. Now, Kamala does not want people of African descent to be seen as human. And that is part of the narrative of slavery and enslavement and bondage. The only way you can convince other people to agree with you to enslave another group of persons is if you have convinced them that they are not human. The only way you can convince people to oppress another group of people is if you have convinced the people around you that these people are subhuman and not worthy of dignity and not worthy of being treated with dignity. And if you are using their physical features, and plenty of you say, no, that's not the case. It is the case. Because when you start talking about somebody looking like there's a PNM, and that person is a PNM, you are invariably often talking about their physical features. So if you have decided that people deserve to be discriminated against because of their physical features, because their physical features tell you they must be a PNM, you are involved in racist oppression. And that is what has been going on with this sitting government. They don't want anybody to say it. They don't want anybody to point it out. They think that putting on black people's ethnic wear protects them from being racist. So I just wear ethnic wear for emancipation. I can't be racist. My good friend is from a different ethnic group. I can't be racist. Look, I hugging up this one in this picture. I can't be racist. Look, I just sit down next to this one in Parliament. I can't be racist. That's a narrative that they want to give you, while at the same time perpetuating policies that are oppressive to an entire group of persons based on political affiliation and phenotypical features. That can't possibly be healthy. Not for anybody, not for them, not for the people that they are trying to oppress. Now, part of how oppression does work is using, where my yellow picture boy? I forget to put it up. Sometimes it's how to use Trojan horses. Sometimes it's how to use middlemen and middlewomen. Just like with the Middle Passage, in Africa, Europeans needed to use tribesmen and tribeswomen to capture their own brothers and sisters. Everybody knows about that. That black men and black women were middlemen in the slave trade. So much the same way, in Africa, you would have used persons of African descent to be part of the trafficking of African people, African descended people. You have the sitting UNC government using people of African descent within the party to soften the image of the party when oppressive policies are being put in place. So this week, we would have had Michelle Benjamin decide to come out and take the Emancipation Support Committee to task. I hold no brief for the Emancipation Support Committee. I think there are ways in which that committee is disconnected from the community at large, and there are ways in which they can improve on how they're doing things and the services they're offering. But I'm also the sort of person that will say, if people are trying to do things in their own little corner, I'm not going to drag them down. The most I will do is say, you all need to do things better, differently. You need to evolve. There are ways in which you are not connecting with a wider cohort of the community, of the African descended community, and you need to think about why that is. But I leave that up to you all. What I am not going to do is come and drag any cultural group in the way in which Michelle has dragged. I have never raised a question about the National Council for Indian Culture in this country. Never once asked what they're doing with the money that they're given. How are they enhancing or improving the promotion of Indian culture in Trinidad and Tobago? I have never asked if the Mahasabha getting money. I have never said that the Mahasabha had to come and account for all of the money that it's getting. Whatever money you're getting. I don't know what money you're getting. I imagine it gets money. I've never said that about Astra, TIA, oh my goodness, I've forgotten all of the other Muslim groups. I don't come and ask those questions. And I'll tell you why I don't come and ask those questions. Budgets. So this goes right back to the ministry that Dave Tanku is responsible for. The Ministry of Finance will allocate certain sums of money to different ministries. Within those ministries, they then determine money has to go to this vote, that vote, the other vote. If Michelle Benjamin is coming out and saying that the Emancipation Support Committee has to explain and justify what it is doing with grants or subventions given to it by the Ministry of Culture, that is a statement that has to be made for all cultural groups that get money from her ministry. Not one. To single out one group in the week in which that group is doing its celebrations is to put that group under tremendous stress. We just had Indian Arrival Day. Michelle did not make a similar statement for Indian Arrival Day. She did not pull up anybody's socks for Indian Arrival Day to say, you need to account for what you're doing with the money. You need to evolve your programs. And listen to me. If we're going to sit down and talk about Indian Arrival Day celebrations, the same criticisms that can be lobbed at the Emancipation Support Committee can also be lobbed at organizations that do Indian Arrival Day celebrations, because the celebrations for Indian Arrival Day have not evolved. It is essentially the same kind of celebration every single year. So, if you're going to be pulling up Emancipation Support Committee socks, you also need to pull up Indian Arrival Day committees that doing programs as well. Or rather, you could treat all groups in a dignified fashion. You, as line minister, could create your whole evaluation template and make that become part of the entire process of grant funding from the ministry. And for all I know, that is probably already in place. What I am clear on though is, Michelle got instructions to insult black people this week. Michelle got instructions to say things to rile up the African descended community. And Michelle got instructions to say things to rile up the African descended community because it served the party's purpose. It served the purpose of humiliating and dehumanizing the African descended population in a week in which they were celebrating their being here, their survival here, their presence here, their contribution here in this space. So that buff that Michelle land on the Emancipation Committee was supposed to make all African descended people feel bad. Just like the slave master's name comment. So don't for one instant think that Michelle did what she did and it wasn't sanctioned. It was sanctioned. And I'm grateful that we had Minister Mitchell show up and show out for us. I'm also grateful that we had this guy show up and show out for us and remind people. I don't know if you all heard or read his Emancipation Day greeting, but there were things that Dr. Brown said in that greeting where he talked about people who just put on ethnic wear, but they have no real understanding of the culture that they are putting on like a costume. Go back and read his statement. His statement is a very, very, very important statement. And I want to close off with the solution for how we deal with things. And the solution for how we deal with things is very much similar to the solutions that our ancestors relied on. Just now, I need to pull up a link. And it comes in the form of a story, right? So Lovell Francis put this up this morning. He says, emancipation. So I'm going to put myself up for you. Emancipation altered the legal status of people of African origin in the British West Indies, but it didn't fully free them. In the period after the passing of the Act, moves were afoot to ensure that as little as possible changed where the lives and livelihoods of black people were concerned. For example, it was important to restrict the movement of the newly freed population, to keep them laboring on sugar plantations for literal pennies. So, most colonies passed vagrancy acts, and we still have the vagrancy laws, wherein people found off the plantations could be jailed arbitrarily or put back on the plantation. So it was either stay and make that sugar or find yourself in jail. So that was one. Preventing them from owning land was also vitally important. And no big surprise, because land ownership is power. So, most colonial legislatures passed laws stopping the sale of crown land in anything but very large and expensive parcels. And then in places like Trinidad and Guyana, replacing the laboring populations were brought in to keep wages low. And this is something that everybody here knows, that by the 1830s, the laboring population here had organized itself into an informal union and had pressured the plantation society here to pay them very, very, very attractive wages in comparison to the rest of the Caribbean. And bringing in bond labor from different parts of the world, whether it is India, China, Madeira, what bringing in bond labor did was force the price of wages, was to force people's wages down so that you worked for less than what you were actually worth. So what did black people do in the face of all of this oppression, where laws were being changed to make them feel less than human, where access to land, jobs, resources, a meaningful way to earn a living on a daily basis, where all of those things changed up on them overnight, even though they had fought for freedom? Community. Community is the only way we are going to be able to survive oppression. Community is the only way we are going to be able to survive bondage. So, one of the things that I have done is I set up a WhatsApp chat group to allow people to be able to have a safe space to be able to talk about issues and also to share information back and forth. The chat group has been, I would say, within the first 2 weeks, very successful. People just talk whole day. I mean, from 5, 6 o'clock in the morning all the way down to 9, 10 o'clock in the night, I can't keep up with the chat. And there have been people who have joined the chat and left. There have been people who've joined after people joined and left. If hectic chat groups are not for you, then, check out the chat group, and if it's not for you, you leave. If having a safe space to talk about the issues and challenges that you're facing, current affairs, because that's what the chat is focused on. Current affairs, feel free to join the chat. Feel free to join the community. Feel free to be a part of the things that we are a part of. I am going to remain focused on ensuring that we have access to information, like valid information, useful information, and that we continue to keep an eye on what is going on with the government. But we need to start by forging a community. We need to start by being our brothers and sisters' keeper, because there are people who are hurting, seriously hurting. They've lost jobs. They are despondent. They can't think of how to cope. They are feeling hopeless. They are feeling alone. So it is important for us to form community with each other and help each other to understand that we are not alone with whatever it is we are facing. And that is where I'm going to wrap things up. I'm taking 10 days, as I told you all, because I need some downtime for myself. I need to be able to just kind of unplug a little bit and not be consistently facing news on a daily basis. What I will say though is I have, I set up, I want to give you all the WhatsApp number. I have set up the group chat, and there is also a WhatsApp number now for News Source. And I wanted you all to know the number, and now I can't find the number for my own WhatsApp account. Give me a second. I might need to switch things here to be able to see what the number is. Right, so the number is 284-2030. I'm just going to put it in chat here. 284-2030. And so those of you that need to join the chat, you can use the number to be able to join the chat. The link for the chat is also on the News Source page. So I'll put up the number and I'll put up the link again. Also, if you have urgent information or pertinent information that you need to pass on to me, you can do so via that WhatsApp number. And just remember, we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. We're not letting people fall into fear or despair as they go through the next however long this government lasts for. If my ancestors could make their way through enslavement and into emancipation, we will get past whatever is coming our way. All right? So happy Emancipation Day. And I will see you guys in about 10 days. Okay? Alrighty. Bye, folks.